All right, good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday morning's edition of Ask the Master Auto Technician. And every Wednesday, I normally get Frank Sunderman. He gives me a call, and we get to find out what's on his mind. And he sometimes gives a different perspective of how we should look at the car industry. He brings to point about NASCAR, how it's declining, how young people seem to be falling out of interest with cars. And so this kind of goes in line about learning a trade. The advantages, now Frank's a teacher at the was a teacher at the local college. I don't think he is anymore, but let me find out. Frank, are you still a teacher at the local colleges in Kentucky or Florida?
I am currently not misleading students into a bad end.
No.
I hope to be back to teaching someday. I miss it terribly.
Mm-hmm. We talk about how how trades. I have a lot of people say that I went to college for 6 years. I've got a master's degree or this or that, and I got $100,000 worth of debt, and I can't find a job that pays well. And I went, I don't know what to tell you on this right here. Maybe you should have learned a skill in college or a skill in high school while it's free. And they don't want to hear that because they've already spent all that money. But what is your opinion about technical education while it's, I like it in high school, but it's free. That's one of the things I like. But go ahead.
My dad almost committed suicide when he found out that his son was going to be forced to take shop class when I was in junior high school, that I had to go to take metal shop.
Yeah.
And he just put up a squawk because no son of his was ever going to get his hands dirty.
Oh, okay. Oh, I had no, sorry. Okay, go ahead.
But here's the thing. Metal shop taught me probably as much as all the other soft things because I learned to understand how the universe was formed. And, James, as you know, I worked as a mechanic, not a very good one, but I worked for a mechanic for a few years.
All right.
And what I always thought is that when I look at an engine and you look at an engine, you can see pistons going up and down. We can see through metal. It's our superpower.
Yeah, yes, you're right.
We can see chains whirring through engines and timing belts spinning, and we can see air flowing through the chambers.
Yeah.
That is an amazing superpower to have.
Maybe it
is. To be
is.
able to look at a piece of hot metal and be able to see those things through that hot metal.
Well, yeah, I guess you got a point there. That's one of the things that I was taught at an early age. We were taught the intake, compression, power, exhaust of the four-cycle engine, or as I learned later, suck, squeeze, bang, blow of a four-cycle engine, and how all that works together. And I was taught very, very early there's no difference between electronic ignition and conventional ignition and all these different types. It's still basically a four-cycle engine. They all work the same, just a little bit different in getting air or a little bit different getting fuel or getting rid of the exhaust. And so I guess that's why I'm able to adapt, and people like me are able to adapt much easier to the changes in today's cars because we know the basics. We understand how things have to get air in and get the air out.
It's a very different thing. You talk about adaptation. I think a lot of people who have gone on to further studies, and good for them. I think somewhere in this society we have bought into a peculiar kind of pornography, and that is that education is supposed to help you get a good job.
Yes,
it is not.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was taught. That's what I was taught.
Into a good person and into a good citizen, hopefully.
All right. But that's what education should do.
There for.
Okay. Good citizen and being productive, but it doesn't necessarily equate to a good paying job just because you have an education. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that's what people are finding out.
On the other hand, I also need to say, we always talk about the labor revolution of the 1800s and the 1850s and the Industrial Revolution. What we have gone through in the last 25, 30 years is something even far more profound. I don't think our society quite appreciates what we are going through yet in the tumultuous change that we have gone through from essentially an industrial society to an electro-optic society, and how our world has changed. Nobody does actual work on their hands. Even you, work with your hands. But what do you do before you work on your hands? You look up things on a computer. You have to have the research skills. You have to have the comprehension skills. You have to have the ability to do the keystrokes to find the information. We have gone through this tremendous, profound change, and a lot of people have been left behind.
Well,
These are even college-educated people.
And I think you're right on that. I was talking to Scott Hobbs from Mr. Reader Plumbing, talking about how plumbing has changed over the last 20, 30 years. How the first thing they do is when they go look at a job, they estimate it out using a computer. They go to the computer to map out the house, how it's all got to be put together, how many square feet of plumbing or pipe or whatever they got to need. All that's done by computer programs now before they ever pick up a tool. And I never knew that till the other day. He says, yeah, that's all done by computers. I go, really? So the estimate, you said, we take this information, we put that in the computer, we take this information, and it gives the customer an idea how much time, how much money they're going to spend to do that job. And I went, I had no idea how computerized, estimating is on doing plumbing work. I just thought it was, like it used to be, like I used to do with paint body work. That's 5 or 6 hours, just by looking at it. But no, it's a lot more complicated than it ever has been, and much more scientific, much more accurate. And I guess it's the same way. And
so many of our friends and our neighbors have been left behind, either because they have not upgraded their skills, or society is just not willing to come to grips with how much our world has changed and how many people we have. Let me say this very carefully, intentionally left behind by not investing in secondary schools and tertiary schools, because I think at this point, it really takes 2 years of college to just function properly in a job, because of all the additional skills you need to have. If you graduated high school in 1970, you know nothing about computers unless you've learned it yourself.
Oh, yeah.
There's been very little formal training going on.
There was nothing. No, I graduated in 74. I didn't take computer training where I had to pay to go to classes till 89, 90. I had to actually go to night classes to understand how to turn computers on, and not programming, just being able to get into them and work with them. I mean, I know what you're talking about. That was a completely different learning curve for me, and I had to be trained by high school students. That was the bad part about it.
And God bless you. You've invested in your craft, to the point where you are now a master auto technician, and you have to keep up not with one car or one make of cars, but a bewildering number of cars, types of engineering, all the stuff. You've got to keep up technology, equipment to diagnose it. Nothing is that simple anymore. And you got to do it every single year, because these guys make changes every year and upgrade, which means you also got to upgrade all your equipment and buy the software and buy the program. All that has to happen just before you can take a single car in the morning.
You're very correct on that. I will say that is one of the things we've had to do consistently for year in and year out, is maintain or upgrade our equipment, tools, and training. But one of the things I will say that has come along that's a free information source, I want to pass that on to those people listening out there. If you're a do-it-yourselfer and you're having problems trying to, say you want to do a certain job on your car, whether it's change headlights or change tail lights or put a timing belt on or timing chain, go to YouTube. I mean, I am serious. That's probably one of the best pieces of information for the backyard technician out there. Even a master certified technician. I get cars that come in and go, man, how in the heck are you supposed to change that headlight? The book gives 2 hours to change that headlight. And you go to YouTube and they'll show you how to do it in 20 minutes. And I'm going, I like that. I mean, these are things that computers have definitely helped us in our profession and help the customer, because we're able to do, instead of a 2-hour job, we can do it in 20 to 30 minutes. Saves the customer money, makes us money, everyone's happy. But yeah, that is something out there. People haven't looked into it. Go to YouTube and type in what you're trying to do, whether it's changing a headlight or a timing belt, timing chain, whatever, and they give videos on how they do it. And sometimes you may go to those videos and go, man, there ain't no way in heck I'm going to do that job. I've seen that before too. There's a couple jobs out there I just shake my head and walk away from, say, ain't no way. I'd be better off just to, just to give the customer money and tell them to go away than try to take that job on. That's how computers have helped change my industry for the better with this instant information. I mean, Frank, you and I did, what was our instant information when we were a kid? Encyclopedias? Was that our information source?
Well, encyclopedias and our elders or our friends or our friends' parents.
Yeah, but what do now we don't ask our friends. You got a question, who was the 13th president of the United States? You just Google it on or ask Siri and you got the answer just like that, which is kind of nice, but it's made us lazy too. It's made us very lazy.
Well, it's a very different world, and I think one of the things, and this spills over from what you and I are talking about basically, which is a workplace preparedness. It really goes into society and the sense of lostness people have of being able to cope with these changes. And I think the thing that schools really need to teach is, well, when I taught, let me jump this way. When I used to teach television production, kids would always scream, well, we need the newest equipment, we need the best equipment, and they did. But I would always tell them that the trick was not to just know how to run the newest equipment, but know how the newest equipment worked and functioned.
Correct. Yes.
Because that way they wouldn't be button pushers, but they'd be the people telling the button pushers
what to do. Absolutely. In any profession, you learn the ins and outs of it. Yes, absolutely. That's good advice to anybody out there. I've been doing
and I would get into these huge arguments. Well, your equipment sold. I said it's about discipline, that you have to show up. You have to show up on time. You have to show up ready for work. And it's your attitude when you show up. And that's what's going to take you through. The equipment will help, but after your second or third job, the equipment doesn't matter anymore. It's all what's going on inside your head.
Absolutely. Your attitude determines your altitude in life. That's one of the things I've learned a long time ago. If I have a positive attitude, a can-do attitude, that's the most important thing in working on cars. If you have that can-do, I can fix this attitude, you can fix it in most cases. There are a few times you can't, but most cases you can. But too many people, I find out, don't have that passion. And that's why they don't do well in their craft. But you need to have a passion, whatever it is, whether it's working on cars, being a brain surgeon, a ditch digger, and don't just be the best you possibly can. But learn a skill. While you're in high school, if you possibly can, learn a skill. Because too many people that I've known graduated from high school, didn't have a skill, wanted to go to college, had the aptitude to go to college and the interest, but could not afford it, and ended up having to go to the workforce to learn a skill to get themselves through. And after 5-10 years of learning this skill, they went back to school and got what they wanted, but they could have learned that skill while they were in high school, while it was free. That's the thing I'm trying to encourage people out there. If you got a high school student out there that's a C student, he's a good kid or good people, male or female, get them to learn a skill while it's free in high school. The school district will pay for it. He or she may have to go to a different school half the day, but that's what I did, and it worked really, really well for me, and I wish other parents would do that. Frank, we got about 20 seconds. What would you like to finish up with?
Well, let me end this way. Woody Allen said it best. He said, showing up is 90% of life.
It is. If you're there, that's true. If you're just a warm body is part of it. You got to be there, but you got to have that good attitude as well. All right, Frank, thank you so much for calling. We look forward to hearing. Give me a...
If you want the best deal in town for tires, you need to call Baytown Tires at 873-8900.
Hanson and the guys at Baytown Tires take pride in serving Panama City for over 20 years. Baytown Tires on Highway 98 in St. Andrews. All service work backed by a nationwide warranty.
Water is too powerful to fight alone. Mr. Router Plumbing. Sink, shower, and toilet emergency drain services.
Part of what I'd like to let you know is what we do and how we work our system. Basically, we've got about 700 stocking dealers scattered around the 15 counties here in the Big Bend area of the state. I run a fleet of trucks, vans, and what we call hotshot vehicles to deliver to our dealers quickly so they can help service you as fast and efficiently as they can. Provide timely and efficient service and We're there to take care of our dealers, who in turn can take care of their customers.
Good. Welcome back to our show. This is Wednesday Morning Show. I talked to Frank Sunderman a minute ago about technical education and the importance of learning a skill while you're still in high school, and it's free and doesn't cost you any money other than what the taxpayers pay for. And that's something that I did when I was in high school. I had to beg, borrow, and steal to get them to send me to technical school because they thought I was too smart. They said, you need to go to college. I go, no, I don't want to go to college. I want to learn how to work on cars. I don't like school. I don't like to study. Now that I got older, I find out myself studying all the time. But when I was a kid, that wasn't my interest. I wanted to get my hands dirty. I wanted to get in there and see how that engine parts worked. I wanted to change those rings and bearings and go in seals and gaskets and make an old raggedy engine run well again. And I found out there's a lot of work to it. But it is very gratifying. It's instant gratification when you put something together and you turn a key and it fires up and runs well. It makes you feel good. But one of the things I would like to talk about is the evolution of suspensions on cars. That's something that we don't think too much about until we have a problem. And when I say have a problem, like you hit a bump and the whole steering wheel shakes, or you go down the road and the whole car vibrates because of the tires are out of balance, or you can't turn to the right or turn to the left successfully, it's too hard one way or too easy or whatever it may be. Things have changed. We used to only have basic type of suspension with an upper ball joint, upper control arm, and a lower control arm and a ball joint. That was pretty much what we had with a shock in between. And then the 70s came around and we went to McPherson strut. McPherson strut, where you have a big long shock and just a lower ball joint, and everything is attached to that strut and there's less moving parts. And the 70s came around and then they added rack and pinion steering to go with the McPherson strut. And that was a great game changer. It really was. It allowed things to free up, to get more room because you had less moving parts down there. Everything was more compact, and it made more precise steering and better handling. And then they started really trying to work on the ride. How can they get the ride better? And the ride has to do with the shocks. Now, we've always had, I shouldn't say we've always had hydraulic shocks, but yes, that's when the shocks first came out, they were kind of like a seesaw. It wasn't straight up and down where you compress and go down. They had a rod going over to it with two dampers, like on a seesaw. As you go up, it push a damper and push down. It was a dampening ability that made the shock to keep the tire on the road. And it didn't have much throw, only maybe an inch and a half of throw before that. And so you didn't have a lot of dampening effect. And over a period of time, same thing on today's shocks, the seals would go bad and they'd go the dark side and the oil would leak out and there would be no dampening ability. So the car would develop wear patterns on the tires, or the tires would get out of balance very easy and vibrate going down the road. We've all seen that wild truck or two going down up 231 is 65 miles an hour with the right rear or the right front tire bouncing 6 inches up in the air and the other three are on the ground. You're going, man, let's let that guy go around us. We've seen all that. And that's just unsafe conditions, and that's someone neglecting a dangerous condition, and cars will get like that. But 20, 30 years ago, if someone, I shouldn't say 30 years ago, 50 years ago, if one was bouncing like that, something was coming apart. Something was coming apart soon. Today's cars, you can have them bounce like that, and they're pretty well designed with safety features on there that they're not going to come apart too badly and do anything other than maybe a ball joint falling out or a tie rod breaking and a lower control arm going where you just don't go anywhere. But going down the highway, I've seen them where cars, you got a tire that's bouncing 6 inches up in the air, up and down, and you're going like, how in the heck can they not feel that in the car? Don't they realize it's dangerous? I don't think they do. I don't think they pay attention to it. They can't see what's going on. They feel a vibration, but they don't see that tire bouncing up and down 6 to 8 inches. That's kind of scary. I've seen lots of that over the years traveling down the highway. And if you see a car like that, give them plenty of room. Let them go on past. Yeah, that's fine. But shocks are very, very important. We don't have oil-filled shocks anymore. We have gas over oil shocks. They have oil in them, of course, but they're full of gas, nitrogen gas, just like those shocks that are on your trunk of your car or the shocks that's on the hood of your car to get into the engine compartment. Your shocks, today's car shocks, are designed a lot like them with nitrogen gas in it. Some oil to keep it lubricated, where the parts move together, or lubricated, but they're gas filled. Well, that nitrogen gas will leak out. Now, when that nitrogen gas leaks out, of course, the ride suffers. You feel every bump in the road. You can run over a dime and tell if it's heads or tails. Yeah, that's the things you can tell just about. It's just like having wore out tires. It's even worse. But your suspension, you don't really realize how bad it's gotten, from the time it was brand new. And you hear you have 100,000 miles on the car, and the guy from the shop walks in there and he bounces your car 2 or 3 times, and the car just keeps bouncing. And he goes, "Your McPherson struts are wore out. You need to change your struts." And you go, "Well, it's only got 100,000 miles on it." Well, shocks and struts are only designed to last about 75 to 100,000 miles. End of story. That's it. I know that sounds hard to believe. I've had some people say, "I've had cars 300,000 miles, never changed the shocks." Well, they started leaking at about 100,000 miles and were no good. You just ignored them. Is the only thing I can tell you. I know a lot of people that do that. I see people every day drive cars metal to metal on the brakes. I had one guy bragging about, "Yeah, I've gone 250,000 miles on the same set of brakes. All 4 wheels were metal to metal." And I went, "Okay, great. I'm happy for you." I said, "You're going to spend $1,000 or more to fix this bad boy, maybe more by the time you get finished with it, because the calipers are locked up." He never bothered. He says, "I don't need to change brake fluid. I don't need to do anything. I just throw pads on there when I need to do it." I said, "How often we put pads on there?" "Oh, about once a year." "So once a year you throw pads on it?" "Yeah, the calipers are sticking a little bit on it." And I said, "That car's unsafe to drive like that, don't you?" No, it's fine. Even though it pulls slightly to the right or slightly to the left when I hit the brakes, and it shimmies and vibrates. We see this all the time. And the biggest enemy to your car is the person looking at you in the mirror when you go shave in the morning. That's the biggest enemy of your car. Most people neglect the things they see right in front of them. They do. They neglect it. They see that low tire. I'll get to it tomorrow. Tomorrow stretches into a week, then they have a blowout. And then they wreck their car, or they have to buy a new tire, or whatever. Most people procrastinate so long when they see a problem, headlight out, tail light out. Then all of a sudden someone runs into it. "I didn't see it, their brake lights weren't working." So don't be proactive. Don't wait for something to happen. You see something wrong, take care of it. I had a grandmother who said about her yard, if you see a weed in the yard, reach down and pull it up. Every time you walk in the house, pull one weed up. In a couple of weeks, you'll have all the weeds out of the yard. Well, it's the same thing with your car. If you see a headlight out, stop. When you get home, fix the headlight. And if you keep looking at your car over a period of time and you keep an eye on it, you'll catch things as they develop, and they won't be a major problem. They won't turn into a life-endangering problem. But suspensions have turned so much better due to, my wife is talking about magnetic shocks. And I go, well, people don't really know about magnetic shocks, but instead of having the oil and nitrogen in there, they have oil filled with metal in it. That's right, little metal filings inside there. And by the amount of magnetism they apply, depending on the setting you have, they can determine the stiffness of the shock. Yeah, I know, and these shocks are not cheap. The ones on the back of a Yukon or a back of a Suburban that have these type shocks on them, and Corvettes, they're like $1,000 a piece. These shocks are Corvette shocks. Yeah, and some people say, "I'm not going to pay $1,000 a piece for a shock," and I go, "Okay, fine, don't pay it. It's your call." And then they wonder why they're, every 6 months their tires, alignment's off, or their tires are wearing out on the inside edge because their alignment's off. And I said, you're going to keep this battle up until you get the suspension fixed correctly. You just can't leave it willy-nilly. It's designed to be this way. You're going to have to bite the bullet and put the shocks on there. If not, you're going to keep tearing your tires up, keep tearing your front end up. Just go ahead and spend the money. You bought a $100,000 car, so you got to spend $4,000 to fix the suspension on it. It's just a fraction of what the car costs. I see these cars come in, some of these Corvettes come in, the customer pay $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 for them. Now the car is 6, 7 years old, out of warranty, and they got to put in these shocks. Whoo! They do not like that. It's just the way it is. I mean, I even see some older model Corvettes come in here. I get 94s, 890s come in here. We work on those. And I look at the suspension changes from then to now. Difference in night and day. I mean, I could take a 1990 model Corvette, go for a ride. It rides like a log wagon. I mean, you get out of it, your back hurts. You take one of the newer model Corvettes with the suspension on them, they're really comfortable. They really are. I'm kind of like, wow, I kind of like this. Completely different. So suspensions have changed completely over the last few years. And that's one of the things that manufacturers can constantly work on, is how to make the car quieter and how to make the car handle better and how to ride smoother. Because if you got a smooth riding car that handles well, that you enjoy getting in, you'll put a lot of miles on them. It's not uncommon. It is not uncommon for people to put, this is the average, is 300 to 400 miles a week is average in America to put on a car, 1,000 miles a month. I can say that. 1,000 miles a month is easy to say that people put on an average on a car. I know some people that put 5 to 10 times that amount per month on a car. It's easy to do if you're visiting, if you're going out of state, well, if you're staying in state, just go and visit your kids. I go down to South Florida to visit my kids. It's 400 miles one way. And I never leave the state of Florida. So you can put 800 miles on a weekend to go visit somebody in the state of Florida. If not, I think from Panama City to Key West, what did we say it was, right at 980 miles? Almost 1,000 miles to go from one part of Florida to the end of Florida. So you can put a lot of miles on a car very, very easily. And thanks to our interstate roads out there, you can travel at 65, 70, 75 miles an hour. Relatively easy until someone makes a mistake and then there's a wreck or a car flips over because they let their tires be too old and blow out. We talked about that earlier this week. Every wreck that I saw where a car or trailer had flipped or something had gone wrong had to do with a tire blowing out on a trailer or coming apart. That's what I saw on the ones that I saw that are flipped upside down, trailer's blown. I saw at least one tire on the trailer or one tire on the rear, not the front, the rear of the vehicle. The rear tire blew out on the back of the truck, pulling the trailer, causing it to lose control and to oversteer and causing the trailer to come around. And so that's why suspensions are so important. Tires, suspension, handling, because there's a lot riding on your tires. It really is, just like that Michelin commercial. Just more than you've got your family, you've got everything inside there. You've got, your life is riding on your tires. What's your life worth? It's worth a little bit. It's worth a lot more than people think out there, and people take it for granted sometimes. Remember, we're only one breath away from death. It doesn't take much of an accident to get you killed. It really doesn't. It just takes a head injury, a little tap on the head, and you don't wake up. So we need to take care of our vehicles. That way we take care of our vehicles, keep them safe on the road. Not only are we taking care of our family, but we're being responsible towards our neighbors. We're not causing them to have problems because of our negligence. That's something that's something I'd like to see more people take responsibility for their own actions. Too many people want to blame somebody else for why something went wrong, and that's what we've been taught. It's always someone else's fault. I mean, I was taught if something goes wrong, it ain't nobody's fault but your own. And that's one of the reasons that a lot of people have the problems they have, because they've been self-induced. They haven't learned to look at the man in the mirror and realize that man in the mirror has got to change what they're doing when it comes to car repair or whatever they're doing in their life. They've got to change and make things better. And that's a lot harder than people think. It really is. It's a day-to-day battle for a lot of people, including myself. I got to make sure I do things right. It's not something you're born with. You have to develop it. You have to every day battle. How do you do the right thing? And that's hard sometimes, because sometimes it's a lot easier not to do the right thing, just to do what you want. So you have to do the right thing. This is James Morris. If you want to do the right thing and have your car looked at because you got a problem, give us a call at 850-763-0555. Test drives and consultations only cost 15 minutes of your time. Just give us a call. We'll go for a ride, tell you what we can or cannot do for you during that time frame, and we'd love to visit with you. Just come by for a cup of coffee. This is James Morris. We'll talk to y'all tomorrow morning. Bye-bye, everybody.